Hey, Barbara Boxer, former senator from California. I always liked Barbara Boxer. I don't know why. A lot of her policies I disagreed with. I don't know why I liked Barbara Boxer, but I did. She was a member of the U.S. House from 1983 to 1993 and a member of the Senate then from 93 to 2017. And guess what Barbara Boxer has done? Well, it's not all that significant. She's written a statement or a column, opinion piece for the Washington Post. A lot of people do that. It's the content of her opinion piece. She says that her voting to authorize the establishment of the Department of Homeland Security was a mistake. Oh, really? Really, Senator? Ex-Senator, a mistake? How many of us little left-wing little radio guys and Air America guys and podcast guys and gals, how many of us shrieked and screamed back in 2001, 2, I guess it was, when the DHS was committed, or when it was considered and then established, Department of Homeland Security. We said back then, 18 goddamn years ago, this is madness. Department of Homeland Security. Why don't you just put it in the original German? But who listens to a bunch of former Air America hosts, although some of them have gone on to fame and fortune now? Not this one. But I think about Rachel. She was one of our colleagues at Air America, whatever. But anyway, she wrote this for the Washington Post. She says, here are the 3 words that no elected official serving or retired wants to say. Quote, I was wrong, end quote. She says, throughout my career, I was known for taking some very lonely votes, but I made a mistake in 2002, when I voted to create the Department of Homeland Security, which had been recommended by a number of members of Congress in the wake of the terror attacks on September 11th the year before. And then she says, looking back at the congressional record, I could hear the doubts in her voice. She says she had doubts then. She said then, quote, I have tremendous misgivings about the size and shape of this department, end quote. That's what she said in 2002. She also said, she warned that people would be, quote, less accountable, hiding under layers of bureaucracy, end quote. Yeah, that's what she said. She goes on in this Washington Post piece, I worried out loud on the Senate floor about including FEMA, the Coast Guard, and immigration agencies into one giant department. Still, she writes, most people thought this was a good idea. The memory of 9/11 haunted me. The hijacked airplanes were headed to California, which I represented, and I'd lost constituents in the attack. The World Trade Center collapsed in the city where I was born. That was enough to get my yes vote. Well, okay, I can understand in the heat of the moment, with the kind of panic and terror that enveloped this country in 2001. I'm sure you remember. It wasn't that long ago. 19 and a half years ago. Well, that is a piece of time, though, isn't it? But remember this, the sick feeling, the vulnerable. What I had was a vulnerable feeling. One of my daughters in Florida called me. And woke me up. I don't know why I was sleeping. Well, I wasn't working at the time. Woke me up. She said, are you watching CNN? I said, no. She said, you better turn it on. And when I saw what was happening, and then literally saw the the second plane strike the towers. I mean, that's what was on television. I think that was live television, but I did see that moment. I can remember very clearly feeling a very sick sense of panic. I started thinking, this is what people in just about every other country have felt, except here. This all of a sudden vulnerability, all of a sudden we are not Turtle Island any longer. We are not surrounded by the oceans. Now we are as vulnerable as people in Gaza, as people in Vietnam, as people in Tel Aviv, as people in Hong Kong. We are now vulnerable. So yeah, it was enough to get Barbara Boxer's vote. It probably would have, no, it wouldn't have been enough to get my vote, not the way it was put together. And I can remember thinking at the time, as panicked as we are, as powerful as this sick feeling of vulnerability is, we can't do this. Department of Homeland Security, what the hell? Boxer writes, here's where I went wrong. I never imagined that a president would use unconfirmed puppets like acting Homeland Security Secretary Chad Wolf and his deputy Ken Cuccinelli to terrorize our own citizens in our own country. Whoa, Senator Boxer, that's pretty strong. You sound like one of these crazed podcasters from the left. She goes on, our goal then had been to protect our own people, not hurt them, not harm them, not hunt them down on the streets of Portland or any other city. There was no protection built into this bill to stop a power-hungry president from misusing a powerful federal police force hidden in disparate agencies controlled by one agency head. That thought never even occurred to me. Senator Boxer writes, well, you were a senator. You were, I don't know, you were preoccupied, right? You had important business on your mind, unlike some of us out here in the Air America podcast talk show left-wing liberal arena. We didn't have those things on our minds, Senator. We could see clearly what the Bush administration was establishing. And we ranted and screamed about it, Senator, and we frothed at the mouth, and we this'd and that'd, and declared this and declared that, and yada yada, on and on and on. And, of course, we might as well have been whistling in the wind. But okay. This is your mea culpa. Let me go back to what you wrote. Senator Boxer writes this, I also never imagined a president appointing a lobbyist who was not even confirmed by the U.S. Senate to head such a department. She's talking about Chad Wolf. I never imagined, she writes, a president cruel enough to initiate a child separation policy and put helpless children behind wire while their crying parents had no power to fight for their children. Right. Well, you, like so many people, never imagined a monstrous, filthy thug like the Orange Ape being assisted by the Ruskies to become president of the United States. That's understandable, Senator. You're not alone on that one. She goes on. President George W. Bush, who signed the reorganization, picked a talented former caring congressman and governor, Tom Ridge, to head the department, followed by Michael Chertoff. President Barack Obama named competent leaders like Janet Napolitano and Jay Johnson. Trump, by contrast, has little regard for the law or executive restraint. He yowls about law and order while commuting the sentences of men like Roger Stone, who lie and cheat and protect Trump's crimes and transgressions. He appoints for Homeland Security. His appointments for Homeland Security behave the same way. The people, she writes, protesting police brutality of African Americans are overwhelmingly peaceful. But even if they got out of hand, local law enforcement agencies have the capacity to deal with it. If any governor needs help from the federal government, he or she can ask. But no federal agency should be roaming the streets of America in unmarked vehicles and unmarked uniforms, arresting people exercising their constitutional right to free speech. That's called kidnapping, and it's what dictatorships do. Yes, Senator, it is all of that. She goes on. When we debated the Department of Homeland Security bill, I sided with 27 other senators on an amendment by Senator Robert Byrd to delay the merger of the 22 organizations included in the department for 3 years and set up checks and balances as well as robust congressional oversight. We lost that fight. But I won 2 other amendments, one strengthening the Federal Air Marshal Service to protect long-haul flights, and another that allowed trained pilots to defend the cockpits and the passengers. Maybe you remember that, when pilots were allowed to carry guns. She concludes, but I voted for the final imperfect, vulnerable product, and I admit my mistake. I never thought that the Department of Homeland Security would be used against our own people. I never envisioned a dictatorial president, a tyrannical president, a desperate president. I was myopic. When we write laws, we must think harder about how they might be misused. I can't get my vote back, but Congress can act to both condemn this gross tyranny and then restructure the department so that no president, now or ever again, can have a private police force and menace the people he or she swears to protect. Well, Senator Boxer, I hear you loudly and clearly. I truly do. I hear you. But your mea culpa really, truthfully, doesn't mean anything except to maybe expiate some of your own guilty feelings. It really doesn't mean anything because you and the rest of the legislators in Washington allowed this bill to become law. And now we're stuck with it because I don't foresee an Ice Cube's chance in hell of this bill being repealed or changed or strengthened with the idea of civil liberties. I don't see it. Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. As you know, we've switched formats and are now broadcast exclusively on the Progressive Voices Network. So that means you get fewer program interruptions, no corporate commercials, and lots of profanity. But our format change also means some of our radio listeners no longer hear the program. It's been a while since I mentioned our podcasts, so you may have forgotten that there is a way to listen to this program anytime you need a good dose of screaming. Visit MikeMalloy.com and subscribe to our podcasts. You have your choice. You can listen to The Ranting with the audio podcast or listen and watch me lose control with a video podcast subscription. As a podcast subscriber, you can download the program to your mobile device and take me with you wherever you go. And if you have a friend who needs a dose of truth-seeking, you can give a gift subscription as well. That's MikeMalloy.com, and never miss a minute of the uncensored fun and frivolity.